My wife, who never touched a drop of alcohol, shared a shot of strong liquor with her assistant at our son's 1-month celebration, leaving me, her husband, completely sidelined. Her excuse was that my stomach was too weak for alcohol, so her assistant had to make the toast on my behalf. Just as the two of them were on their 99th toast to the guests, I publicly asked her for a divorce. Everyone was stunned. My wife slapped me across the face. I went through 3 grueling years of IVF for you to have our son, and now you want to divorce me just because I shared a drink with my assistant? Have you no conscience? I nodded. Yes, just because of 1 drink. Sincere Clark, have you lost your mind? Do you have any idea what day it is? This is our son's 1-month celebration. I endured 3 years of IVF just to finally give you this one and only heir. Victoria Smith lifted her shirt, revealing the dense cluster of needle marks on her stomach, her eyes filled with grievance. Upon seeing Victoria's scars, all the guests in attendance couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for her. So many needle marks. Victoria must have suffered so much. How could Sincere Clark be so heartless as to bring up divorce on a day like this? Exactly how dare he ask for a divorce? I remember he was the one with a fertility problem, wasn't he? Not only did Victoria not hold it against him, but she went through hell and back with IVF just to give him a child. Now that the baby's just been born, he wants to cast her aside. It's too cruel. The assistant, Ethan Miller, rushed forward, his eyes bloodshot as he grabbed my collar. Victoria went through so much for you. How could you have the heart to ask for a divorce on a day like this? Are you even human? I looked at his furious expression and sneered. You can drink on my behalf, can't you? Then from now on you can take over the trouble of handling Victoria and the child for me too. With that, I shoved Ethan's hand away and looked coldly at Victoria. Let's get a divorce. The child is yours too. I don't want him. That single sentence pushed the entire crowd's anger to its peak. My mother, Martha Clark, sighed in frustration beside me. Sincere, is there something you're not telling us? Your father and I saw how much you loved Victoria. You gave up the opportunity to go abroad for her, helped her start her company with all your might, and you drank until you were hospitalized with stomach bleeding multiple times just to land her more deals. That's what caused your stomach problems. My mother held my hand, her voice heavy with meaning. Sincere, with your health, you shouldn't have been able to have children. It was Victoria who endured 3 years of IVF, fighting tooth and nail to give you this child. We can't be people without a conscience. Hearing my mother's words, Victoria looked even more wronged, throwing herself into my mother's arms and crying pitifully. Mom, I know Sincere is just jealous of how close I am to Ethan. He's bringing up divorce just to get my attention. I can understand how he feels. Seeing that even my mother had spoken up, the guests all began to try and smooth things over. It's not easy for a couple to stay together, especially with a wife as outstanding as Victoria. A woman like her is 1 in a million. She doesn't even mind that you're a dud-firing gun, so what right do you have to ask for a divorce? Just suck it up and get over it. Ethan Miller seized the opportunity to pull me in front of Victoria. Sincere, if you're bothered by how close Victoria and I are, I'll leave. I don't ask for anything else, just that you treat her well. I sneered at Ethan's pretentious act. No need. The position of Victoria Smith's husband is all yours from now on. With that, I turned to Victoria with finality. I've already filed for divorce. You'll grant this divorce whether you want to or not. Then I looked at my mother and reassured her. Mom, you'll soon understand why I'm doing this. Hearing this, my mother said no more. I turned to leave, but before I reached the door, Ethan rushed forward to block my path. Today is your son's 1-month celebration, and you choose today to demand a divorce. Are you human? You're not leaving until you explain yourself. I let out a sarcastic laugh and kicked him hard in the chest. Get out of my way. You're just an assistant. What gives you the right to tell me what to do? Ethan clutched his chest and collapsed, struggling to get up. Victoria saw this and hurried over, shielding him behind her. Sincere Clark, if you have a problem, take it out on me. Ethan was just trying to help us. What right do you have to hit him? I snorted coldly at their intimate display. You should know perfectly well why I hit him. I ignored them and started to walk away. Just as I opened the door, Victoria's parents, David and Helen Smith, appeared with her brother, blocking the entrance. Sincere, we know you're a good kid. In all your years of marriage, you've never once raised your voice at Victoria. Why are you insisting on a divorce this time? David Smith looked at me with a placating expression. I remained stone-faced. I just don't want to be with her anymore. It's that simple. My words instantly enraged Helen Smith, who pointed at me and cursed, calling me an ungrateful wretch. We never agreed to let Victoria marry a penniless. Nobody like you in the first place. Everyone has seen how much Victoria has sacrificed to hold this family together all these years. She nearly destroyed her body doing IVF for you, and what does she get in return? Not a word of thanks, but a demand for divorce. Are you even human? Victoria's brother, Sean Smith, swung a fist right into my face. You're just a freeloader, and you really think you're somebody. You useless waste of space who can't even produce a child. Only my sister would put up with you. Do you think anyone else will want you after a divorce? The whole city of Riverton knows you're a useless piece of trash with a dud firing gun. No one would even pay you to be a gigolo. I clutched my swelling face, about to speak, when Victoria stopped her brother. What are you doing? No matter what, Sincere is your brother-in-law. He's just saying he wants a divorce because he's angry. He'll be fine once he cools down. Everyone was moved by Victoria's act of defending me, praising her as a saintly woman, while I was painted as the consummate ungrateful wretch. Look, you're being such a bastard, and Victoria still chooses to defend you. If you keep making a scene, you're just being unappreciative. The baby in the cradle behind me was crying non-stop, each wail sounding like an accusation of my wicked deeds. Everyone assumed that at this point I would take the easy way out and back down. But I didn't. I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth. Then I guess I'm just unappreciative. This divorce is happening. I wasted no more words on them, pushed the door open, and walked out without a second thought. As soon as I stepped out of the hotel, I saw a Maybach parked not far away. I walked straight to it, opened the door, and got in. My personal assistant handed me a file. Mr. Clark, here is your medical report. On the results line it read, fertility, normal. Sperm quality, excellent. I put the report away, my gaze turning icy as I looked up at the brightly lit hotel tower. The shareholder meeting is tomorrow. I want Victoria Smith utterly ruined and disgraced. That night, I stayed at my private estate, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Just as I was about to rest, I received a message from Victoria. Sincere, you've been living off me all these years. Without me, you're nothing. I've frozen all your cards. If you just come home and apologize, I promise to forgive and forget. I sneered at the phone screen and then blocked her number. After doing so, I took out the supplementary card Victoria had given me and tossed it into the trash without hesitation. A card with a $1,000 monthly limit. Useless. For years, my life had seemed happy and perfect on the surface, but in reality, I had to be cautious at every turn, constantly watching people's expressions. Even with that $1,000 allowance, I spent it carefully, having to keep a detailed ledger of every cent for Victoria to inspect at any time. The next day, I returned to the house to pack my things. The moment I walked in, all the servants' eyes were on me, filled with contempt. After all that drama yesterday, I thought he had some backbone. But here he is, crawling back with his tail between his legs today. A man who can't even have a child, and he still has the nerve to cause a scene. Who does he think he is? If you ask me, Miss Smith would be better off divorcing him sooner. She could have her pick of any young man out there and wouldn't have to look at this waste of space's face. I glanced at them, about to speak, when Victoria's stern voice cut in. All of you, shut up. My husband is not for you to gossip about. I turned around to see Victoria standing behind me, arm in arm with Ethan Miller. Ethan was holding the baby, looking at me with a provocative stare. Anyone who didn't know better would think they were the real family of three. I thought Sincere was so tough, It's only been a day, and he's already back to apologize. He probably can't bear to part with your billion-dollar fortune. Victoria. Victoria took the baby from Ethan's arms and held him out to me. Sincere, you left in a huff yesterday. Luckily, Ethan was here to help me with the baby, otherwise I don't know what I would have done. Ethan tenderly wrapped an arm around Victoria. Victoria, it was my pleasure. As long as you're happy, I'd do anything for you without regret. I had no interest in watching their lovey-dovey display and started to head upstairs. Just then, Victoria's phone rang. She immediately thrust the baby into my arms. Sincere, I have an important conference call. You watch our son for a bit. With that, Victoria answered her phone and walked out. The moment she left, the baby in my arms began to wail uncontrollably. I looked at the child in my arms not with an ounce of affection, but with immense irritation. Ethan watched me with schadenfreude. Sincere, you'd better soothe the baby. He is, after all, the fruit of your and Victoria's love. His words disgusted me even more. You soothe him. Victoria and I are getting a divorce. This child has nothing to do with me. Ethan looked at the baby, a fond smile on his face, and reached out to take him. Since your father doesn't want you, I'll have to take over. Just as Ethan was about to take the child, he suddenly let go of his hands. A sharp cry of "Wah" was heard, and then the baby on the floor went silent. Victoria heard the noise and rushed back in, just in time to see me having supposedly dropped the child on the floor. Her face changed in an instant. I won't force you to stay married if you want a divorce, but why take your anger out on our son? Victoria immediately called for an ambulance, which rushed the child to the hospital. I had intended to just grab my things and leave, but Victoria, afraid I would run, had the security guards forcibly drag me into the car. The doctor diagnosed the child with a severe concussion, accompanied by symptoms like intracranial bleeding. Even if he woke up, his intelligence would likely be affected. Victoria stood frozen on the spot. When she came to her senses, she slapped me hard across the face. Sincere, Clark, that's your own flesh and blood. How could you do it? Ethan even raised a hand and slapped his own face. Victoria, it's all my fault. I didn't protect the baby. If I had protected him, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Victoria looked at the handprint on Ethan's face, her expression full of pity. This isn't your fault. The only one to blame is my son, for having such a vicious father. People coming and going in the hospital began to condemn me as well. A man who can't have children, and when his wife finally has one through IVF, he throws the baby and causes brain damage just because he's angry. Even a vicious tiger doesn't eat its own cub. He's worse than an animal. I've seen trash, but never trash like this. Serves him right he can't have kids. A person like that doesn't deserve to be a father. Faced with the crowd's accusations, I was unmoved, a scornful smile on my face. It would be even better if this child died. I never wanted to be his father in the first place. That single sentence pushed everyone's fury to its absolute peak. Victoria glared at me, as if she wanted to kill me. Sincere, Clark, you just want a divorce, don't you? Fine, I'll give you one. But before we divorce, I'm sending you to jail to pay for what you've done. With that, Victoria took out her phone and called the police. The police arrived quickly. After Ethan embellished my evil deeds to the officers, a pair of heavy silver handcuffs was clamped onto my wrists. Sincere, Clark, I gave you countless chances. You're the one who didn't cherish them. I've already had the divorce agreement drawn up. Not only will you leave with nothing, but you'll also face millions in compensation. Victoria looked at me with hatred. I sneered back. Victoria Smith, this is just the beginning. With that, I turned and left with the police. The moment I was gone, Victoria, ignoring the child still under observation in the ICU, rushed back to the company for the shareholder meeting. Sitting in the CEO's chair, Victoria's face was grim. I have already filed a criminal complaint against Sincere Clark. I've decided to transfer the 10% of shares he holds to Ethan Miller, and to appoint Ethan as our company's general manager. After her announcement, the shareholders began to vote. Seeing a unanimous show of hands in agreement, A satisfied smile spread across Victoria's face. But in the next second, the doors to the conference room were thrown open, and I walked in dressed in a perfectly tailored bespoke suit. The biggest investor hasn't even arrived yet. Your vote doesn't count. The moment she saw me, Victoria's eyes went wide, and she nearly fell out of her chair. Weren't you arrested? How could you be here? I swaggered over to the chairman's seat opposite Victoria and sat down. I committed no crime, so of course I can be here. Victoria glared at me fiercely. That's impossible. I saw with my own eyes you throw our son on the ground, causing his concussion. I tapped my fingers on the table. Then there must be something wrong with your eyes. Victoria slammed her hands on the table and shot up. What trick did you pull? Did you bribe the police? I looked at her with a derisive smile. Do you think I bribed public servants with the $1,000 monthly allowance you give me? My words sent a ripple of murmurs through the room. 1,000. Isn't Miss Smith supposed to be Riverton's most outstanding female entrepreneur? With a net worth of at least $10 billion, shouldn't she be giving her husband a $10 million allowance? What can you even do with $1,000? It's not even enough for groceries, let alone any kind of social life. That's just humiliating. Hearing the whispers, Victoria's face went pale. Giving you $1,000 a month was a test of your character. They say men get corrupted when they have money. I was controlling your allowance because I love you. Ethan chimed in from the side. Victoria built this entire company. You're just a freeloader. Besides, she's never left you wanting for food or clothing. What more are you not satisfied with? With that, Ethan walked towards me impatiently. This is our shareholder meeting. You're an outsider, so get out. Ethan's words reminded Victoria of the matter at hand. Sincere Clark, since you're so determined to divorce and have caused our son to be hospitalized in the ICU, don't blame me for disregarding our past. I've already decided to transfer your shares to Ethan, and all the shareholders have unanimously agreed. I sneered. Is that so? But I, the investor, haven't agreed yet. What do your opinions matter? At my words, Victoria's face darkened. Sincere Clark, I think you've really lost your mind. Tossing away a good life to get a divorce, injuring our son, and now you dare to impersonate an investor? Ethan burst out laughing. Everyone in this company knows the biggest investor is a foreign new energy corporation. Their assets are in the hundreds of billions. Do you really think a freeloader like you can just impersonate them? I wasn't in a hurry to refute him. Instead, I chuckled lightly. How do you know I'm just a freeloader? If I recall correctly, half of the people present here were handpicked by me to join this company, weren't they? My cold gaze swept across everyone in the room. Those who met my eyes couldn't help but lower their heads. When Victoria wanted to start her business, I supported her without reservation. After the company was established, I helped her secure investments and negotiate partnerships until the company was firmly established in Riverton. Later, however, Victoria used the excuse that the family needed someone to look after it to sideline me, gradually dismantling my influence until I was completely marginalized. What's the use of saying all this now? I've already had the company draw up the divorce papers. You are the at-fault party, so you'll leave with nothing. The company is mine, so the shares are naturally mine. I can transfer them to whomever I please, and you have no right to question it. As her voice fell, the conference room doors were pushed open again. Several bodyguards cleared a path, and a blond, blue-eyed Western man walked in briskly. The newcomer was Thomas, the general manager of the foreign new energy group. The moment Victoria saw him, she rushed to greet him with a smile. Thomas, you're here. Why didn't you give us a heads up? I would have sent someone to pick you up. But Thomas walked right past her and came to me. He bowed respectfully and shook my hand firmly. Mr. Clark, we came as soon as we received the news from headquarters. I nodded. Pull all investments from Smith Corp effective immediately. You can all wait outside for a moment. I have some business to attend to. Thomas nodded respectfully and led his people out of the room. Victoria and the others were stunned by Thomas's deference to me. As soon as Thomas left, Victoria rushed forward and grabbed my collar. What is your relationship with Thomas? I pushed her away and sneered. Just as you see. Who are you?" Victoria's gaze gradually filled with terror. Before I could speak, her phone rang. It was the investment department manager. "Miss Smith, bad news, our largest investor has pulled out. Our company's capital chain is broken, and we're now facing billions in debt." Victoria froze, stumbling and nearly falling to the ground. "This is impossible. You were just a kept man following me around. How could you possibly be our company's largest investor?" Ethan helped Victoria up, his eyes still filled with disdain. "Victoria, I think he's just bluffing. He probably doesn't want to leave with nothing, so he's deliberately causing a scene. You mustn't fall for his trick." Ethan pointed a finger at me viciously. "Sincere Clark, you rushed to divorce Victoria right after she gave birth to your child. Did you already find a new sugar mama? Is that why you dare to make such a public scene?" I chuckled at Ethan's angry face. "Ethan, you have time to slander me, but you'd be better off worrying about yourself." Ethan laughed out loud at my words. "Sincere Clark, stop bluffing. I don't know how you got out of the police station, but the fact is you caused your own child to suffer a severe concussion." Hearing Ethan's words, Victoria seemed to remember something and pointed at me menacingly. "That's right. You caused our child to get a severe concussion, and now you're here causing trouble at the company. We can't just let this go." Seeing the two of them acting in concert, my expression turned cold. I took out my phone and opened my home surveillance footage. "Ethan, you might not know this, but I installed hidden cameras at home a long time ago. Everything you did that day was recorded." With that, I played the video. The video clearly showed that when I handed the baby to Ethan, he deliberately let go, causing the child to fall to the ground. The moment the video played, everyone present was shocked. I can't believe Assistant Miller is that kind of person. He'd harm Miss Smith's son just to frame Sincere Clark. Assistant Miller always seemed so gentle and kind. I never thought he was like this behind the scenes. Is Assistant Miller trying to usurp the position? That's just too vicious. After seeing the video, Victoria's face turned livid. She slapped Ethan hard across the face. "And I trusted you so much. How could you do something like this?" She stopped herself, swallowing the rest of her words. "That's what?" I looked directly into Victoria's eyes and asked coldly. Victoria froze for a moment, her expression a little unnatural. "Nothing." Ethan clutched his swollen face and gripped Victoria's hand tightly. "Victoria, that video must be a deep fake. Don't believe a word he says. He's just trying to escape responsibility." I found Ethan's act laughable. If it were a deep fake, I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at the police station. That single sentence left Ethan speechless. Then I took out another document and threw it on the table in front of Victoria. "Victoria Smith, you've been forging my medical records for years, making everyone, including me, believe that I was the one who was infertile." My words drew everyone's eyes to the document. "This medical report shows his results are normal, doesn't it? Could it be that Sincere Clark wasn't the one with the problem, but Victoria Smith? No wonder Victoria stuck by him and went through 3 years of IVF, even though she knew he had a problem. It turns out he was never the problem at all. What a devious woman. Victoria Smith is making Sincere Clark take the blame for so many years." When Victoria saw the medical report on the table, her face turned white and she began to tremble. "So you knew everything? You asked for a divorce just to get revenge on me?" I snorted. "Revenge? The divorce is just to get away from a person like you." Victoria rushed forward and grabbed my hand. "Honey, even if I was the one with the problem, it was only because I loved you so much. That's why I thought of that method to keep you. Besides, I went through 3 years of IVF just to give you a child. Can't you see how I feel about you?" I sneered at Victoria's earnest act and forcefully shook her hand off. "Victoria Smith, your 3 years of IVF weren't for me." Victoria froze, her eyes widening with terror. "Honey, what do you mean by that?" I took another document from my briefcase and threw it on the table. On it were the words, "paternity test results." Victoria instantly panicked and reached for the document on the table, but I blocked her hand before she could touch it. "Scared?" Right in front of her, I opened the paternity test results. It showed a 99.9% probability of paternity between Ethan Miller and the child. At that moment, the entire room gasped. What? The child from Victoria Smith's 3 years of IVF is actually Ethan's. That's disgusting. Not only is Victoria infertile, but she was cheating with Ethan all along, and even tried to pin the blame on her husband. She's a monster, a scheming adulteress. No wonder Sincere Clark was willing to face everyone's condemnation to get a divorce. Victoria not only had another man's child through IVF, but also openly toasted with her lover at the baby's party. What man could stand that? Victoria's legs gave out and she collapsed to the floor. It's over. Everything is over. Ethan, enraged and humiliated, rushed at me, trying to hit me. Sincere Clark, you useless piece of trash, you dare to set us up before his hand could touch me. My bodyguard slammed him to the ground. Sincere Clark, I'll get you for this. I pressed my foot firmly on Ethan's back and looked down at him coldly. You should be thinking about yourself. I've already provided the video evidence to the police. When Ethan heard I had called the police, he immediately became terrified. I was wrong, Sincere. I know I was wrong. It wasn't on purpose. My hands just slipped. I snorted. He's your son. Whether you did it on purpose or not has nothing to do with me. Ethan struggled to get up, his face contorted with rage. Since he's my son, it's not your place to judge. He's my son, and I'll treat him however I want. What right do you have to call the police? Hearing this, Victoria scrambled over, grabbed his hair, and slapped him hard across the face. Ethan, are you even human? Do you know how much I suffered to give you this child, and you dare to say something like that? I had the bodyguards release Ethan, who immediately twisted around and grabbed Victoria's hands. You're the one who wanted this child. I'm not infertile. You're the one with the problem who insisted on having this baby through IVF. Victoria struggled, trying to scratch Ethan's face. You bastard, Ethan, you caused Sincere to divorce me. You bankrupted my company, and now you're trying to wash your hands of it. Ethan slapped Victoria across the face. Who the hell do you think you are trying to hit me? This is all your own damn fault. Victoria clutched her swollen face, looking at Ethan in disbelief. You dared to hit me? Ethan's facade finally crumbled completely. You old hag, have you looked in a mirror lately? Did you really think you were so charming? If it weren't for your money, you think I would have even looked at you? With that, Ethan stood up to leave. The next second, the conference room doors were pushed open, and several police officers walked in. Ethan Miller, you are suspected of child abuse. Please come with us. Ethan was taken away by the police. A disheveled Victoria scrambled up from the floor and looked at me pleadingly. Honey, I know I was wrong. Please just forgive me this one time, okay? I promise I'll be a good wife to you from now on. I looked at her and chuckled. Victoria Smith, you think too highly of yourself. I slowly bent down to look at her. Do you think I would want a woman who can't have children? Victoria's eyes widened, filled with despair and shame. I threw the divorce agreement on the floor. Sign it. Victoria stared at the divorce papers, completely stunned. I don't want a divorce. I will absolutely not get a divorce. She clung tightly to my pant leg. As long as I don't agree, it won't be that easy to divorce. I shook her hand off. I've already submitted all the evidence of your affair with Ethan to the court. This divorce is happening with that. I turned and left without a second thought. The story of Victoria and Ethan spread like wildfire online that very day. Everyone knew of their wicked deeds. I can't believe Victoria was cultivating this loving wife persona while cheating on her husband right under his nose. It's disgusting. She was willing to go through IVF to have a baby for a mere assistant, only to find out that her husband, Sincere Clark, was the hidden billionaire, the biggest investor in Smith Corp. She really threw away a diamond to pick up a stone. Victoria is completely finished this time. I heard that after the investor pulled out, her company is billions in debt. She'll never recover. Lying in my private estate, I scrolled through the news on my phone, feeling nothing. Now that your identity is exposed, aren't you afraid Victoria will refuse to divorce and demand a share of your assets? A friend asked. sitting beside me with a worried look. I chuckled lightly. Back when Victoria was trying to sideline me, she cleared out all the companies under my name. To put her at ease, I deliberately used my mother's name to register the business licenses. I was planning to tell her on our 5th anniversary, but she gave me an even bigger surprise. As it stood, I had no assets registered under my own name. Just then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Victoria. "I will not agree to a divorce. My company is now billions in debt. As long as we're not divorced, this is marital debt. I'm waiting for you at the coffee shop downstairs from the company. Let's talk properly." Reading her message, I found it laughable. To guard against me, she had long ago transferred all company assets into her personal assets. Now that the company was in trouble, she suddenly remembered me. In the end, I chose to go to the meeting. When I arrived at the coffee shop, I spotted a heavily disguised Victoria in a corner. She was unusually excited to see me. "Honey, I knew you couldn't bear to part with me. You do still love me, don't you?" I gave her a sarcastic smile and tossed the divorce agreement onto the table. "Sign it. There's no future for us." Victoria froze. "No, I don't agree to a divorce." Seeing her agitated state, I remained calm. "If you don't agree, I will continue to appeal to the court until you do. Your infidelity, having another man's child through IVF each one, is enough grounds for me to sue you." I paused, then slowly knelt down in front of her. "However, if you agree to the divorce, I will agree not to press further charges and to assume half of the debt." Victoria stared at me blankly for a long moment before finally, slowly, picking up the pen and signing her name on the divorce agreement. After signing, she clutched my sleeve tightly. "Honey, don't worry. This divorce is just a temporary measure. I'll make it up to you in the future, I promise. Just give me one more chance." I found her act laughable and forcefully wrenched her hand away. There is no us anymore. With that, I quickly left the coffee shop. Walking out, I pulled out the asset agency agreement that was tucked inside the divorce papers and handed everything to my lawyer. "Help me process this divorce as quickly as possible and then liquidate all of Victoria Smith's assets." After settling everything, I left without a moment's hesitation. Victoria spent this time at the hospital taking care of the child. It was a month later when the child was finally discharged. Victoria returned home, and as she pushed open the door, she saw several people moving things out. "What are you doing? Why are you in my house?" A worker looked at her with disdain. "What do you mean, your house? This villa was already used by your ex-husband to pay off debts." Victoria was stunned. How is that possible? Didn't Sincere Clark say he would take on half the debt? Why would he liquidate my assets? As if remembering something, Victoria took out her phone to call me, but the call wouldn't go through. She had long been blocked. Dispirited, Victoria went to her company, only to find the sign on the building had already been changed. Even the receptionist looked at her with contempt. A contemptible woman who cheated with her assistant has the nerve to come back here. "Do you think you're still the high and mighty Miss Smith? Get lost. Don't dirty our place." Completely hopeless, Victoria wandered aimlessly down the street, holding the blank-eyed child in her arms. Suddenly, she saw a familiar figure step out of a Maybach parked ahead. It was Ethan Miller, with his arm around a portly woman. A sycophantic smile plastered on his face. A blaze of fury erupted in Victoria, and she rushed forward. "Ethan Miller, what are you doing here?" A flicker of disgust crossed Ethan's eyes when he saw her. "Stay away from me. Don't get your stench of poverty on me." Victoria trembled with rage. "I've been ruined because of you. Even our child has brain damage, and you dare to hook up with another woman?" Ethan glanced disdainfully at the child in Victoria's arms. "You're the one who wanted to have that child. It has nothing to do with me. Don't try to pin it on me. If you don't want to raise him, just dump him. Don't bother my life." With that, Ethan started to walk away, but Victoria lunged forward and grabbed his arm. "You can't leave. You can't just get away with this. The child will need therapy and a lot of money for his care. You have to pay for it." Ethan viciously shoved Victoria to the ground. "Get lost, you old hag. Trying to cling to me, are you? Who do you think you are now? just a drowned rat." Ethan kicked her leg hard before wrapping his arm around the rich woman and sauntering off. Victoria, holding her child, watched them leave, a sinister glint slowly rising in her eyes. The night wind was biting cold. Victoria climbed over the wall of a villa. The sounds of a man and woman moaning drifted from inside. Holding a rope, Victoria crept up from behind and looped it around the woman's neck. Ethan screamed in terror. The next second, the woman fell to the ground. Ethan tried to run, but he found that all the doors had been locked and wouldn't open. Ethan dropped to his knees with a thud. "I was wrong, Victoria. I know I was wrong. I'm begging you, please let me go this one time, okay?" Victoria sneered. "Let you go? Then who will let me go?" With that, Victoria lit a lighter and tossed it to the floor with a smile. Only then did Ethan notice the floor had been doused in gasoline. Flames instantly engulfed the entire villa. When the police arrived, all they found was an infant in the bushes outside, one who neither cried nor smiled. I received the news as I was preparing to board a plane. A multi-billion-dollar deal in a foreign country was waiting for my signature. The end.